In part one of how to figure out your dot target market or segment, I showed the importance of narrowing the target segment to maximize the reach of your resources. In this video, part two, I'm going to show you some methods for identifying potential characteristics of your specific target segment. Let's dive into the first resource, and that's if you have an existing Facebook page. I'm logged into my Facebook profile. I've navigated to my page. I'm on the feed for my page, which is newer if you haven't gone to pages in a while. And now I want to find out what my audience is for my page. So if I go to professional dashboard, I can click on audience and I can see that the age and gender, so primarily 94% are women. And that's important to know. If you have a page like this, you definitely know your target market is women. Yes, some men may wander to your page, but that's something that you can worry about when you're looking at other segments later. Like if you want to expand into men, how can you adapt your page to that or something? But keep in mind that because this page is primarily women, if you start adapting to men, you may alienate your current audience. So this is why it's important to understand who your current audience is in addition to who you want to reach. So in this case, we've got women. We've got a pretty good range here, but 18 to 24 is not very big. I mean, it's less than 10%. And I'm looking at these, I'm like, this one's a little bit over 10% or right at 10%, and this one's under. I'd probably target 25 to 54. That's about the range. And if I really want to narrow that down, I can do 35 to 44. For our purposes, we'll just say 25 to 54. That's fine. Now, we're going to narrow this down more, possibly, or maybe even expand a little bit more. But we understand now that we have this audience of women, 25 to 50, that are on this page. I only have like 11,000 followers. So I should be able to expand just focusing on 25 to 54 and women, right? I don't need to go to men. I don't need to expand to these other ages. I can just focus on that gender and age and still have plenty of people to reach. So I don't need to change anything. But then I can also look at locations. And if you go by cities or you can go by countries, United States is by far the largest. So I might as well focus in the United States. I don't need to get crazy and go in the entire world. It'll reach them anyway. But I'm just going to target where my primary audience is. Now you say, wait, Kim, that's not a lot of information. You're right, it's not. So let's see if we can actually look at more potential information. So I'm going to go to the Meta Business Suite and I'm going to go to Insights. And then I'm going to go to Audience here, which should show me similar information, right? But up here you see Potential Audience. Now, potential audience this is what they're estimating your size is 221 million to 260 million. And this is based on what they have here. Now you can filter and we can say, okay, we had our age range for 25 to 54. So let's do that 25 to 54. And we're going to say gender is all, or actually let's say women, because that's what we're trying to target, women. So we know that our potential audience for just those elements, 66 million to 77 million. Let's target this down to the United States as a country. And now we're looking at, so basically the same amount, right? And then we're going to add an interest. Now, there are a couple things that you can look at is that they have top pages. These are recommendations that they have. Tasty, Delish, even Ellen DeGeneres. I don't know about Starbucks, but because it says food and beverage, Starbucks primarily focuses on coffee, and I'm doing cake decorating and baking. So Starbucks really doesn't fit. Victoria's Secret definitely doesn't fit. But what they're showing you is that there's a lot of people on my page that also have these interests. Considering that most of these companies have like millions, if not tens of millions of followers or data points going into it, these are not useful because they're just too big. So instead, I'm going to come in here and look at these interests. So I'm going to say baking. And let's see, we're going to do, and you can look at these too, because some of these are pages. So we're going to do cake decorating. And Wilton cake decorating actually would be okay. So let's just click on that one. Now that's narrowed it down to 592,000 to 696,000. And remember, because this is our age range and our gender, and then we have top cities here and top countries and then top pages. Now these will give us more pages. So Wilton cake decorating is obviously the one that is going to be the closest. And then we can see if there's Pillsbury. That's a good one too, right? Pillsbury. So this is how we can kind of make a list of potential pages. Now, this is good if we want to create an audience. So you can create an audience here and use that audience for targeting later. But this is, again, a good way to say, okay, I want to see what my potential reach is. If I'm narrowing it too far, 592,000, 696,000 for this specific interest is fine. I really do not think that's a big deal. Now, if I wanted to maybe have millions, and again, this just depends. This is going to give you an idea also if your audience, again, is too narrow. So let's say that we wanted to do cupcakes, DC Cupcakes television show. That's still pretty big. I mean, most of these are going to be big. So English, we'll say US. See how much we're not narrowing it down a lot because this is Facebook and there's tons of people. And these interests are vague for the most part. So this gives you an idea of some different ways that you can create an audience in Facebook. Now, the point of creating an audience is to run ads. So if you're like, I don't really want to run ads, I just need to get an idea, this at least gives you an idea. And again, as you can come in here, you can find new ones. Some of them are going to be good, some of them are going to be bad. They're going to give you top pages, unfortunately. So until you get down to, let's go Robbins, see if that comes up. Nope. Let's do, so Dean Graziosi comes up, which is weird that Tony Robbins doesn't. I don't even have any information for this. So let's take off United States and do all of them and just see if this changes a little bit. And so he's too small. They know just if you target Dean Graziosi, you're going to have 570,000 to 671,000. So you can go through here, you can come into here and you can look and play with it and see if there's a different type of audience that there's a reach and you can get some ideas from here. This is not nearly as good as it used to be. I'm going to tell you now. They've changed this significantly. They've generalized it a lot more. So it's a lot harder to use. Let's get out of Facebook now. And the one that I've been using a lot lately to help me with, and this is already set to Shopify, but I'll show you in just a second. So let's say that I have a specific product. Okay. Now we don't want to go too general. And a lot of the people that especially if they're in e-commerce, let's say. So let's say you're in e-commerce and you're like, well, I mean, I'm in e-commerce. So I can sell on Amazon. I can sell on Etsy. I can sell on these platforms. So that's my audience. That's too general because Amazon has so many products. The only thing in general you're going to find is somebody who shops on a marketplace. So unless you are a marketplace and you're trying to bring marketplace people in, then you probably don't need to target something that big. So instead, you want to kind of narrow it down by product. And the example I've given in the past is like I have these Celtic ornaments. So if I say Celtic ornaments, I can look and see companies that sell this. Now, obviously, Zazzle, Etsy, these are going to be big ones. Amazon, these are going to be big ones that are on there that they're too big, right? So I'm going to scroll down and look for a specific company that like realirish.com. They probably have a bunch of, since Celtic ornaments tend to be Irish or related to Irish, then I can come in here and say, you know what, this is a good site for me. Now, it may be too small, but we're going to go ahead and look at it in SimilarWeb. See if they come up. They're here, but they still might be too small. We'll see. So they have some data in here. I can scroll down. They don't have any geography or any of this other data. So this is going to be a game to see how much you can see. And I'm doing a free version on this, so I'm getting limited information. But this is one way to do this. Now, the other thing I have is I have something called Keywords Everywhere installed. So if I say Celtic ornaments, or let's just go with Celtic gifts, because that's a little bit more general, I can see volume on here and everything. But what this also does, if they're paying for ads, they're probably a little bit bigger. So I'm going to take a look at this. I hate that I click on their ad, but Glenkara Irish Jewelry. This is just Irish in general, so it's okay to still fit. I'm going to check this site and see if maybe, because they're a little bit bigger and running ads. Yeah, so they do have some data, right? So they've got some Australia, they've got Canada, and the United States is over 50% of their traffic. Now, if I come down here, I can see that on desktop, I should note that SimilarWeb only shows desktop data. So here they've got female 53%, male 46%. Since it's jewelry, that might be skewed a little bit more to female. But that's something to consider is that this is really close to 50-50. So you may not have a gender narrow on this. But this one shows a clear winner of 25 to 34 above the others. If you think that your audience is slightly bigger than that, that's okay. You can expand, or if your resources are limited, just keep it narrower. So this is one way we can come down. We can get similar sites like this one. This one actually is one that I've looked at. So I'm going to say open and I'm going to look at it. And this is even up here, it says showing limited data for the site. And that's because I'm on a free version. So I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to see they still have no data to display. And that might be them just blocking me. You just got to keep doing this. Unfortunately, that one's a really narrow topic. So let's do one that's a little bit bigger. So in this instance, that one of the research elements that I'm working on right now, which I've set this up for myself, is that I'm providing an e-commerce service. This is I'm setting up a course for it. So my target audience is going to be e-commerce people, ideally new ones, but it's going to be hard to really find new e-commerce people. I just have to keep in mind that they're going to be new. So in this case, it's because it's going to be automated marketing. So I know that if people are paying for Shopify, then they are most likely going to be in need. If they're new to e-commerce, they're on Shopify, which is where a lot of new e-commerce people start with. And since I know this, I can go, okay, let me see what Shopify, their characteristics are, right? Because I don't have an existing page. I don't have existing anything. I'm just starting from scratch here. I'm setting up the course. I kind of want to see, as I'm setting up my course and my materials, what would be my target audience? Now, I will say one of the things that I did so that people can see this is that I went to Chat GPT. What I did is I asked, explained it. What are the benefits of that? And so it gave me that, right? So that's one thing to keep in mind that you can do. Another thing that it did is right here, I said, can you tell me what a good target segment for my marketing would be to promote a course on how to automate marketing for e-commerce? And it said, here are some different ones, right? And so it says new e-commerce entrepreneurs, small to mid-size e-commerce businesses. Maybe I think I'm more going to be the new commerce entrepreneurs, digital marketing professionals, if they want to learn a skill. Yeah, but that's not going to be my target market. Can they learn it? Sure. But I'm trying to help e-commerce people. So that's a segment, but not my primary segment, right? My primary segment is probably going to be new e-commerce entrepreneurs. And so I know this, looking at this, I can say, hey, if I have no idea who my target segment is, let me hop over to ChatGPT and ask, right? So that's what I did. So I went over there and I said, give me some ideas. And it gave me these ideas. Like students around here, maybe, I mean, eventually, but I can just start literally with new e-commerce entrepreneurs. I already know that WooCommerce and Shopify are two popular ones. Between the two of them, there's over 10 million people that I could potentially reach. That's already huge, right? So those two are separated into Shopify and WooCommerce. I'm going to have different marketing materials for them. In fact, I'll probably have two completely different opt-in pages for them. Of course, they'll be the same, but the opt-in pages and the way I funnel them in will be different. So now I can come back in and I can say, okay, Shopify. So I know they're going to be new e-commerce people, probably going to be Shopify or WooCommerce. I'm going to do United States, even though it's only 32.88% on Shopify. That's still a really large number. And then I can come down here and say it's mostly male, but I kind of want to help females as well. So I'm not going to be too worried. And again, this is desktop. So I don't know. I read once that women are more likely to visit sites with mobile than men are. And I don't know how accurate that is anymore, but just in case that's true, when I'm getting close to these numbers, only 60-40, I mean, it just doesn't seem like enough. I could still have two different ads if I wanted to, one targeting women and one targeting men. We can do some testing on that later. But I am starting to see a trend here where I don't want to go too high. I mean, I am pushing this 44. So I'm in this range right here. And that's not even the largest on Shopify, right? I'm not actually on Shopify, so it makes sense. I wouldn't be in this category. But 25 to 34 is in here. And that's an interesting, so even 18 to 24 is kind of interesting to me because I know that most of the people they're going to pay attention to me probably aren't going to be 18 to 24. I don't know why. I just don't click with them. My audience, when I look at my pages, tends to be older. So I'm going to go 25 to 44 as my target range. Now, this is different than the page we looked at before. So just keep that in mind. I'm doing I have no idea who my market is, right? So I'm just going to say, I'm going to come in here into my target segment. I'm going to say, Website is Shopify. And the age on this one, just so I know, is 25 to 44, right? That's going to be the general one. And if I wanted to, I could even say 18 to 44 just for now. And then gender, I'm going to say, I'm going to put a note in here that it's 60% male and then 40% female. And the reason why I'm making that note is because I'm at the beginning of my research. So that may not mean anything to me later. But then I can scroll down and I can see that these are always general. Okay, these are always general. Other websites visited. I mean, look, ChatGPT, there's like millions of people visiting it. These are too general. Canva, too general. So I will say that Canva is one of my main audiences. So Shopify and Canva do seem to have a link. Then I come down here though, BigCommerce, Printful. Printful's a really good one for what I teach. So I'm going to add Printful on here and I'm going to look it up in a minute. But I'm going to say, okay, we've got Printful, cjdropshipping.com, possibly. Dropshipping is another good one that fits. That was, if you come over here, they'll say dropshipping business, right? That was one of the ones that was on here. So you know what? cjdropshipping.com is going to go on my list. And I want to see if I can find some similarities here. Then Oberlo, that's another dropshipping company. So we'll put Oberlo there. Then let's see what else. Klaviyo, that's not quite, they do e-commerce stuff, but it's not quite, I don't know enough about their platform to be able to do it. Printify is fine because Printify connects with both WooCommerce and Shopify. So that would be a good one for me as well. That's another print on demand. So that's what Printful is, a print on demand. Very, very good for what I'm going to be teaching. In fact, the bonuses that I'm going to offer in my course would be perfect for them as well. So knowing this, I can say, oh yeah, I like those as potential, and I can look up some of the others and see if they're ones that I want. But for now, let's go back to SimilarWeb. And you're going to say, why aren't you comparing, Kim? Well, it's because it starts to limit it. So we're going to do Printful. Oh, and actually one other thing I want to show you. So Shopify, when I type it in, has a lot of different options here, right? I could actually say, you know what? I want to target people who I know are paying for something on Shopify besides Shopify. Shopify has its own cost. But if they're willing to pay for apps, then possibly those people are being more than willing to pay for something else like what I teach. So I could go on here and see if I can find anything else. Unfortunately, the data on here, other than United States, actually, there's quite a bit of data in here. So these are, and of course, a lot of these are going to be the same. But this is good to know. Still, we're still at that 60-40. We're still at that same age range. So nothing really changed much on here. But that's just something, you could look at it and say, okay, well, if they're paying for this, if they're paying for this specific resource, then they're more than likely going to be, it could change the data. So it's something that you can look at and explore. In this case, it didn't change the data. So let's go back and we're going to do Printful. And I'm going to say printful.com. You can see here it says 5.4 million visitors. These are all estimates. In fact, I think it estimates like 4,000 people visit my website. That would be awesome. I don't get 4,000 people a month visiting my website. Probably only a few hundred, but that's growing. So we've got, let's go down here again, United States. We like that because we already have that target market. Oh, but guess what? Now we're 55-45. So again, like I said before, that split between male and female may not make a difference for my audience. But I'm looking at this and I'm like, that age range is still 18 to 44. And that number for 18 to 24 is still kind of high. So because that's a 24%, I mean, that's almost a quarter of your traffic, right? A potential traffic. I like that. So I'm going to keep it at 18 to 44. So we're going to come in here and we're going to say Printful is 18 to 44. And then I'm going to do 55 male. Wait, was that 55 and 45? What did I say it was? 55. Yeah, 55 and 45. So 55, 45 female. And again, that's just for me because I'm just starting this research. Now, Printful is print on demand, while CJ Dropshipping is completely different. So something that I would want to make a note on is print on demand versus dropshipping. And the reason why is because these are interests. So I'm going to put interests here. And this is just Kim notes, right? And so Shopify is just e-commerce in general. it's a huge area. But when I start saying, oh, look, print on demand, and I happen to know that my bonuses would be great for print on demand. So cjdropshipping.com, that's another segment. But when I do my marketing materials, I kind of want to bring my print on demand people into one funnel and my drop shipping into another funnel so they can see the benefits of my course for those specific segments. So far, it's looking like my primary segment is going to be Shopify users. Gender doesn't seem to matter. So because e-commerce is so big, I've already narrowed it down to Shopify users, right? So I'm going to have another one here that's going to be WooCommerce users. And we're going to look at that in a second. But Shopify users, and I'm looking at age 18 to 44. That seems to be kind of the range. And that's important. You go, wait, what does age even matter? Well, if you think about it, I have a 10-year-old. Now, I'm a little bit older for having a 10-year-old, but my age range has kids generally. So I might be able to say, and even if I don't, there's other things like my brother-in-law just bought a boat. He has a kid, he has kids too, but he just bought a boat. There's an interest in increasing income at our age, right? Whereas if you start to get older, they're more interested in spending time with family. So if you're not hearing me say you can't target something to someone, you're hearing me say they're going to have different priorities, right? So I might be able to target and say, do you want to make more money passively versus, oh, hey, do you want to save time on your marketing, right? So there's different. And by the way, ChatGPT gave me these already, time efficiency, right? There's no financial benefit in this particular list, but there is a financial benefit in my course if they want to look at that. So let's go back to our target segment here. So you've got 18 to 44 Shopify users. And in this case, we could have a print on demand category. Then we could do the same thing. We can say Shopify users, 18 to 44. And they're interested in drop shipping, right? Those are different segments. So I'm going to say segment 1, because that's the one that fits my bonuses the best. Segment 2, and actually that'll probably be segment 3, because I think we're going to find that we're going to do one here is going to be segment 2, where we're going to have WooCommerce, which is on WordPress. So let's look at that one real quick so I can show you that. WooCommerce. And we're going to go woocommerce.com. And they have approximately 2.5 million visitors monthly. And then I'm going to scroll down. Now they have only a 14%, which is still pretty big considering that's their dominant audience, but only 14% of them. So even if you look at that 2.5 million, you're narrowing it down already by saying United States. I'm not going to specifically say United States in my target market because I'm probably just going to naturally reach the United States, but that is something that I could say. Now, this one is 67% male and 32% female. Something else I happen to know in my research is that because I'm going to be using something called automation, mostly men like automation. Now, does that mean I'm going to exclude women? No. In fact, I would love to have one that specifically supports women. And my targeting can focus on that. So let's say that I wanted to specifically target women crafters who are using Shopify and they're new to it and they need to figure out how to market. That's a perfect audience for my product. So I can narrow that down significantly based on what I want to do as well, right? I'm not excluding people. I'm just going to tweak my marketing materials or my funnel materials, whatever I'm showing people so that they can understand my course as it fits their needs. And does that change my course? Probably not. In my case, it doesn't matter who they are. If they're in e-commerce, they need my course if they want to automate their marketing. Does it fix all their marketing? No. But because I can say, yeah, I know everybody can use this and everybody says this, oh, everybody can use my product, everybody can use my service. I get that. But we don't want everybody going to the same page. We don't want everybody looking at it from the same way. We want to be able to create materials to create interest and intrigue and ultimately get them into our sales funnels simply by targeting them with the information that applies to them. I may not have a men versus women ad, but I might have an ad that talks about maybe taking care of children. Right? Oh yeah, I have so much, I need so much more time to take care of my kids. I feel like I'm missing out on their life. and I'm spending so much time doing marketing. How can I minimize that and save some time and reach my audience better? I set up automating for that, right? And so those are different angles that I can come up with based on looking at these and say, you know what, there's a lot of men in this. They might be more interested in what, right? And you might have to find that out. You might not know what it is. You might have to just play with it and test. But at least we can say, so WooCommerce is 6733. So we're going to come over here. We're going to say WooCommerce. And let's look at that age range. That age range is still 18 to 44. So I'm starting to see kind of a pattern here, right? Everything so far is 18 to 44. Now, the gender we said was 6733. So we're going to say 67 male, 33 female. And WooCommerce is just e-commerce in general. And then we can look at over here, we said WooCommerce, right? So we can say 18 to 44 and the same thing. Now we have another print on demand. And then we have another segment 4, which is WooCommerce. And then we'll say 18 to 44 in drop shipping. Now, this might continue on. You might find out that, hey, this is, again, I said this is really good for print on demand. So I might find out that there's a specific niche within print on demand. Probably not. This is probably narrow enough for me to say, okay, I can do a male and a female, or at least elements that males are more likely to care about versus females. I can use ChatGPT to fill in some of the gaps. What do males 18 to 44 worry about professionally in e-commerce or something, right? I don't know. We can play with that another day. But this is how I can go back and I can start with absolutely no data of my own, and I can come in and I can start kind of narrowing it down. So let's do a couple more just so that we have done them. And we said CJ drop shipping, right? So we'll say CJ drop shipping, and we're going to say .com. And you can see that there are other countries listed. So if that's your area of expertise is other countries or other languages, you can look at that. And so they have some other ones here. So compare CJ dropshipping to, and they actually have some suggestions. So again, United States, that's good for us. We've got male 64 and 36. So we're going to go, let's look at the age, 18 to 44, same thing. So we're looking at a lot of e-commerce is in that age range. And that's probably because, that age range is the most adapted to technology. So it makes sense. Now we said 64 and 36. So a 64 male, 36 female. And then we'll look at Oberlo. We'll see if we see something similar there. So we've got 2.4 million and we've got 18 to 44-ish. That's interesting. This one actually lowers. So you're 18 to 34 almost. Still, 20% is a lot. So I'd still say 18 to 44. And then, so we're going to say 18 to 44. And then we're going to look at 60-40. So 60% male, 40 female. And Oberlo is another drop shipping. And then Printify, we'll do our last one real quick so you can see it. Printify, and that's 7.9 million. That's a lot, by the way. It has integrations with tons of platforms. So if I had other platforms that I'm going to discuss, now the reason why I want to do WooCommerce and Shopify is because part of my course that talks about Pinterest merchant verification. So in order to do that, there's some steps, and some of the other platforms are difficult to do or I don't have any experience in. So I want to start with the platforms that I'm very well versed in. And then as I grow, I can expand to other platforms. But I'm going to start with these. So Printify, again, there's a really good chunk in the US, over 50%. We've got 18 to 44. Again, that's that same range, 18 to 44. And then we also, and you'll see this, it's very common to see similarities like this because, again, these are all people that are interested in e-commerce. People who are going to Printify aren't buying, they're selling. People who are going to Shopify.com are selling, right? So everything I've targeted here are people who are selling. There's not a single one in here that's going to go as a buyer. Whereas if I'd say, oh, well, I want to do Etsy sellers, unfortunately, they'll go to Etsy. So I'm going to have buyer and seller data combined in that, right? Same thing with Amazon. So we've got 55, 45. So we'll do 55 male, 45 female, and this is a print on demand option. So again, I've got some print on demand ones and I've got some drop shipping ones in here and then some general e-commerce platforms. So these are really good segments for me to start with. And then of course I can narrow these down if I wanted to make a segment A and a B and a segment A and a B and do male and female for each one of these. So this gives me a really good starting point. A really good starting point. And that's just by using one website, right? The other thing, again, like I showed you earlier, is you can go and you can do keywords. So if I wanted to do sell on Etsy, let's see what comes up. So they have etsy.com/sell. See, again, let's go back and look at that on Amazon. So if we say Amazon and don't type anything else or hit enter, we see that there's Amazon.com. I do not think, even though it's seller.amazon, I sell on Amazon. They do have it, but I don't think they're going to have any specific data. Yeah, they don't have any data here. And that's because they're tracking it all through regular Amazon. So that's not helpful because I want to target sellers. So maybe if I'm on Facebook or I'm in Google, there might be sites like if I wanted to target specifically people who sell on Amazon, I can find people who are promoting courses. And there's the Walmart marketplace too, right? So this one is sell.amazon. Let's go back and see if that's one. That one actually has a little icon with it, huh? No data. There's not really, there's some sellers, United States, but that's it. There's really not a whole lot of data here. We can look at some other ones in here. Jungle Scout's a good one. If they're a seller on Amazon, Jungle Scout is going to be one that is possible. So let's look at Jungle Scout. I know I probably could just. So junglescout.cm. This could be another one if I were targeting, again, Amazon sellers. I am not targeting Amazon sellers. I am targeting people who have their own website. But we've got 60%, 39%. Look at this, 18 to 44. These are all people who are selling on these platforms. And you're starting to see this pattern, right? This is how you narrow your niche. Now, does this mean that people who are 55 to 64 or 65 plus, you shouldn't include? No, you're not going to exclude them, but you're going to target. Remember, we have limited resources. So we want to target the audience, especially when we're first getting started, that is most likely to convert. So we want to narrow this down as much as we can to minimize our resources. Hey, Amazon sellers. Hey, WooCommerce users. Hey, print on demand users on Shopify. That is very specific. And now you're connecting with them and you're calling them out in your marketing materials, right? On your sales pages, whatever that is, you're connecting with that audience and you can have multiple pages. Everybody thinks of the old school days when you had one website and that was the only way you had information. We don't have that anymore, right? Instead, what we do, let's see if I can pull this up for a second. See, we bring them into a sales page and then we can bring them into the funnel, right? So in this case, let's say that I want to, see if I can get bigger still. Here we go. So for my first list, we've got our segment 1, right? So we've got our segment 1. So I might have my sales page might say something like, hey, Shopify users, are you selling print on demand on your website? Looking for a way to automate your marketing to X amount of platforms and save X amount of hours per week. And then, of course, you might have like a Q&A that explains how you come up with those numbers, etc. So now I'm targeting time because I know 18 to 44 that they have time constraints. They're looking to increase their income. So they want to increase their sales. So if I can show a link to sales, then this would be a great way. There is, right? So drive more traffic equals generate more sales. Of course, it's targeted traffic, but whatever. We do that through keywords, keyword matching, everything else. There's a ton of different ways to do this. This is what makes automation so exciting for me. Is because the way I teach it helps maximize everything, right? Whether it's SEO and everything. I just listed a whole nother segment, SEO, people who are interested in SEO, right? I'm like, so if you're interested, if they're e-commerce people and they're interested in search engine optimization, that's a whole nother segment. So this is how I start creating lots of different segments. And then I start with one and then I do another and then I do another and then I do another. And this is going to generate new tags for each one of them. And I'm going to start expanding and finding out which one I can connect with the best. Does this mean that if I can't connect with segment one, I'm done? I can't ever do anything again? No. It means that I'm going to create materials for segment one, segment two, segment three, segment four, etc. And then I'm going to find out once I've done, let's say that I have 10 segments, right? Let's say that 2 segments, I can reach that. Because here's what's going to happen is that there's tons of people targeting Shopify, but there's probably maybe less people targeting WooCommerce. So I might find out that these 2 segments are just too competitive for me to reach with my resources, with my strategies. So instead, I might go, you know what? WooCommerce is easier to connect with. Or I might say that drop shipping has way too much competition, but print on demand is easier too. But you can see as I narrow this down, if people are just targeting Shopify users, they're going to be spending a lot of resources to reach a large audience. Where if I start going, okay, I'm going to be marketing my materials to this age range, I already know 18 to 44 is my solid range for selling, right? So now I just need to find out what their pain points are for selling in e-commerce, and I can do tons of different angles. And these are called entry points. So these entry points are all different ways to get them into my ecosystem, whether it's on a Facebook page or a Pinterest account or drive them into my course, right? So that's the ultimate goal. This is exciting. I have 0 audience to start with. Now, that's not true. I do have a Facebook group and I can start with them, but my Facebook group is wide and broad, not narrowed. Now I'm starting to narrow everything down and I'm starting to see, oh, look, I do have similarities. And that's the importance of doing the research. Now, I know this is a little bit long, but hopefully it gives you a really good example of how you can find your own target segment for your product, your offer, your training, whatever it is. You can now start from absolutely nothing and get a general idea and get started on testing. If you have any questions, make sure you put them in the comments, or you can hop into Little Biz Resources group and ask questions there if you want. And I really do think this is a great way to get started if you have absolutely no idea. And of course, start with your current resources. I only showed you Facebook, but other platforms have additional information. If you sell products, you can look at the data you have stored in there. If you're using Google Analytics, you can use that as well. So this is just mostly how to get started from scratch. And again, if you have questions, just hop into the Facebook group or leave them in the comments and I will reply when I can. Thanks.